Coming at you live from the Coppel Chevrolet GMC studios. Here is your host, Derek Pearson. Brought to you by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Yes, sir. Let's get it. Let's get it on a Wednesday night, one-on-one, 402-464-5685. Starter Heyman text line, Honda Lincoln hotline. If you want to add to the conversation, you got questions, you want to talk a little wrestling. Late nights on the ticket. We're going to have some fun here. Again, the Starter Heyman live video stream. You can see us in studio, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter live. So no matter how you consume, we got you covered. We got you covered. Every opportunity, folks have asked constantly, okay, there needs to be a wrestling show. There needs to be a wrestling show. And then it's, well, we need several. But to go to the resource, and again, I come from a hometown in Arlington, Virginia, where, quite frankly, in that space, there are quite a few wrestlers that come through. And one of them, pretty decent dang athlete. Man, he was impressive. He was impressive. Three-sport guy, threw a little too hard for most folks. On the mound.
6'4", 300.
He was, look, I think he was born 6'4", but that's we'll talk about that when we bring him in. But give this man his music, please, kind sir.
Come on! Woo! Peek, 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 peek! Come on, pigs!
I can't help but smile when I hear it. Let's bring him in. Mark Canterbury, how you doing, big man?
What up, DP? Man, that's music to my ears. I love that song.
Come on, Mark. That is, look, man, I was trying to explain to folks earlier. I'm like, you don't understand. Within sports in general, not everybody's worthy of it, but you're just one of my favorite people because of the way you handle your business and the way you handle your friendships. So I have to say that, man, love you. I appreciate you making time for our folks to talk a little wrestling. It's greatly appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you getting a hold of me, man. I love you too, man. It's been a while, been a little busy, and we'll get things rolling here.
Well, we got time, and we will make time for it. You just went to one of these conventions where you got to see a lot of your old buddies. Let the folks know who was there. Who'd you run into this past weekend?
Yeah, oh man, we were down in Greenville, Tennessee. It was Hazard Fest. So,
okay,
man, yeah. I mean, Daisy Duke. Luke Duke, let's see, who else was there? Mark Boone from Sons of Anarchy played Bobby Munson.
Right.
Man, just a great time. Cletus T. Judd that I did the video with back in, me and Hillbilly and Phineas did a video with Cletus T. Judd back in the day. We did a spoof off John Michael Montgomery song.
Right.
But I got reunited with Cletus. Going to see him again here pretty soon. All the moonshiners, Mark, Digger, Josh, just super guys, man. It was awesome.
Look, when you posted the picture of you and Catherine Bach, Daisy Duke, like all of us became 12 years old again. Like, it's like, okay, seriously, like that's top of the line. Thank you.
Exactly. What a sweetheart she was.
Oh, thank you, brother. So through all of this, I was telling Harrison, the producer, just you in your early life and the athlete that you were. We think of how simple it should be, but you had to make choices. Like football was a real thing. Like this was an option. If you had chosen to keep throwing the fastball, there would have been frightened hitters all over that area. How did you make the decision to transition from football to wrestling?
Oh man, I started watching wrestling with my grandfather when I was 4 or 5 years old. When we'd come down here to West Virginia from Arlington to visit, it was always on the weekend. So at 11 o'clock, he got in his recliner, And I remember seeing him get so excited he'd have backer juice running down his chin. But I don't know. I had a lot of athletes in my family, and just football was very physical, and wrestling was sort of in my blood, I guess, and it was just easy. Now I had a hard time being in front of all them people. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Scared half to death. Went out there, even with just like 100 people when I first started doing little independent shows.
Yeah.
But, and now, I'm in San Antonio at the San Antonio Dome in front of 166,000 people. So it was crazy. So that part was a little hard to transition, but the physical part was pretty easy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're a unique athlete, bro. It's not like 6'4", 260-pound dudes who can fly, right? You can actually move, bro. Like you were an athlete. This was this would have been a thing. I was asked. We were talking about earlier. What was it about Arlington, Wakefield, that produced two? I mean, you and Dave Batista from the same spot. Like you guys are the same neighborhood, same school, same football program. Like, come on. What was happening in Arlington and at Wakefield that was producing? There's a ton of athletes that came from there.
It must have been something in the water, man. I don't know. But yeah, Batista, he was a pretty good athlete, I hear. He was a few years behind us. I think he was 80 or 87.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I don't know, just having the opportunity, a big school, just a lot of opportunity. When I moved down here, it was we were a single A school, and it was a lot different coming from Wakefield to Peterstown.
Yeah, right.
Coming from like 2,500 students to 900.
Wow.
And that's 7 through 12.
Wow.
It was a little shock, but I enjoyed it, man. I slipped right in and fit in with everybody. So it was easy. It was fun.
So through your time, right, that as you get in the business, who led you into the business? Who were the people that taught you the business, that kind of held your hand and kind of got you under firm footing in this space? Some people have said, you go back to the George South folks, but for you, who were the folks that taught you this business?
Well, of course, I got to mention Italian Stallion and George South, because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be in this situation. But as far as after that, teaching me the basics and then me learn on my own and with some help of some old timers was Dusty Rhodes. He was a big part of me and Phineas was just talking about this on one of our virtual signings, that Dusty was a big influence for us, and people like Barry Windham, Dick Murdoch, Dick Slater, Jody Hamilton. He was, just that's who really sticks out with me. But I guess Dusty was like our mentor. Great interviews, Dusty, Plumber's son from Austin, Texas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that's a big part of this thing. Like the in-ring work is one thing, but the evolution of microphone skill. And I want to say, is that the early 90s where people are talking more and being more personality driven rather than in-ring work?
Yeah, I mean, just like Flair, him on the mic was as good as him in the ring. You know what I'm saying? It just, it clicked with him, and the interviews back then were awesome.
Right.
I mean, they got personal. Terry Funk, Dory Funk, and Dusty, and Harley Race. I mean, and Flair. Just what a great era, man. I was so blessed and lucky to come in when I did. And I don't know if I told you before, but when I got my break in WCW, they put me in the car with Harley Race. Now, I'm young. I'm still green.
Yeah.
But I'm doing TVs for WCW, and they throw me in the car. Harley Race, Hercules Hernandez is in the front in the passenger seat, and me and Barbarian are in the back seat, and I'm scared.
Just sitting back. I was telling Harrison that, like, in truth, they talk about Haku and Andre, but Harley Race might have been like one of the 5 toughest guys, legitimate tough guys in all of wrestling.
Oh yeah, I seen him. This is no lie. Bend a ring on Scott Norton's hand when they were doing a death grip with each other. Harley had a hell of a grip, and we were in Louisiana. I still remember, and we were at the bar and just having a good time. But they were just playing around. But hey, when you bend the ring on somebody's hand, it's
he was
pretty impressive.
Well, he was a tough dude, and that was also part of why, like some promoters said, look, if you give the strap to Harley may not give it back. Like this was a real situation. Nobody really wanted to go after Harley.
No, nobody wanted anything to do with Harley, and he was a big help with us too. When I transitioned from WCW to WWF, Harley Race and Kevin Nash spoke up for me, and within a month I was in Vince's office going over my gimmick and what we were going to do up there. So those two were. I just talked to Kevin and told him this a few months ago about if he remembered, speaking for me, and it really meant a lot to me, to have friends like that.
Mark, it's like you were in a very special place. I do want to talk about the building of a gimmick, right? That you went through several different things and being called. I've heard the stories of being called into Vince's office where there's a pitch and then a repitch, like, hey, here's the idea, but here's this thing. How much input did you have when Vince calls you in to say, hey, look, we're going to go Hog Farmer, we're going to go in this direction rather than, say Shanghai Pierce?
Well, it was 92, me and Dennis Knight, which is AKA Tex, AKA Phineas.
Yeah.
We started in WCW, and we got let go. See, 94. I went up to WWF, and Tex, he had a couple issues he had to work out on his own, so he come up a year later. And but yeah, it was just a good time, and he he's a funny guy. It'd be awesome to get him on here one night.
Yes, please. Yes, please. To bring that through, we're talking to Mark Canterbury, Henry O. Godwin. As most will know, some Shanghai Pierce, depending on the area of the country and how you deal with it. But through all of this, right, you were a part of a clique. And it wasn't the clique, but you were part of a special group of guys who traveled together, who lived life together. Tell us about that special group that included The Undertaker.
Well, we haven't talked since I did the WrestleMania, have we?
No, sir.
Yeah, well, this past WrestleMania, the office, they got in contact with us, with the BSK. That was our little group, Bone Street Crew. Undertaker, Yokozuna come up with that. But, so the office called and said, we did Survivor Series and we all got together. That was a year before this. But they called and said, well, we want you to be here for Undertaker's Hall of Fame speech. And man, what a speech it was. Wow. But, it was just a group of guys. We started hanging out. And we went out one night and we walked into this bar, and I think it was me and Yoko, Taker, Godfather. I think Rakishi was there, but Phineas he hadn't come up yet. And we walked in, and Yoko screams out, "Bone Street Crew in the house, bitches." So that started. But and poor Yoko, what a sweetheart. Rest in peace. But that was our little group, and we just, I don't know, we just hit it off, and it was a brotherhood right off the bat. And it was myself, of course, Phineas when he come up, and it was Undertaker, Paul Bear, Rakishi, Godfather, Savio Vega. Just a cluster of culture there, but we loved each other, and I called Savio yesterday and checked on him in Puerto Rico, and I called Phineas last night, and he said he's staying in Tampa, so everybody's doing good. But what a great time at WrestleMania. It was almost tearful. What was going on, with Taker and his speech, and it was just a good time.
Mark, I'm going to ask you to hold on. We're going to go to break. We'll come back. I want to talk about Undertaker, and I want to talk about the names that people know. I need Mark Canterbury's Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. We'll talk about all that stuff and more here on One on One.
Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Stone, and joining me in just a moment is Andy Goodyear, General Manager of Honda of Lincoln. But before I bring Andy on, I need to tell you about something that really got my attention. Just the other day, I saw on television Andy announcing that in the last 50 years, they had sold and serviced close to 100,000 vehicles.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, actually, the number would be a lot higher if we add in how many repeat customers we have for service and that come back to buy cars from us over and over and over again.
Now, Andy, tell everybody about your special offer.
Well, as most people know, always trade for vehicles, but now we're offering for people to come in and sell us their cars. We're ready to buy, bring it on in, whether it's a year old or a few years old, and we'll pay them cash that same day. It'll be hassle-free, and we'll do it the Honda of Lincoln way.
Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of buying cars, 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
You're getting lots of steps in this fall between going to football and volleyball games. Are your shoes getting worn out? For the rest of September, when you stop by Brown Shoe Fit, you can take an additional 20% off the men's clearance rack sale price. The clearance rack has your favorite brands like Brooks, New Balance, Clarks, and more. Hurry in for the best selection in your size. The sale ends September 30th, so hurry in now for 20% off all shoes on the men's clearance rack at Brown Shoe Fit, just south of 66th and Q in Lincoln.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
The Ticket Water Cooler with Jake Bockelvin and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
I thought this season was about the buyout. Maybe the season was truly about belief in Scott Frost turning it around. I don't know if I'm the idiot for thinking it was about the buyout, or if they're the idiot for thinking that Scott Frost was going to truly turn it around.
Maybe you think you put somebody's feet to the fire, they might change a little bit.
The whole idea just didn't make any sense to me.
It really did.
16-31, you got to do something. He was 15-29. It's the same win percentage.
Get a lot of advice about self-care these days, but one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
When you talk about getting back to what Nebraska football is, the roots of Nebraska football is disciplined play. The roots of Nebraska football is knowing technique. The roots of Nebraska football is never giving up. The roots of Nebraska football is knowing what you're doing on every play. The roots of Nebraska football is picking up your teammates when they're down. The roots of Nebraska football is win, baby.
You're listening to One-on-One with DP, sponsored by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to One-on-One. We appreciate Mark Canterbury hanging out with us on a Wednesday night. Mark, yeah, I know that One Nation Under the Roof takes you back to the dance floors at Wakefield. I know it does. I know it does.
Yeah.
I know it does. I know we want to talk about the Mount Rushmore. I want to push that back for a second because Harrison was just being curious during the break and about that the matter of trust in a professional wrestling ring, what's required for a wrestler to get into the ring with another wrestler and trust him with his well-being. You can tell these stories probably as well as anybody. Of course, there's the incident with the Road Warriors, and I know you hold no malice, but trust is an important thing because when things go wrong in a professional wrestling ring, it goes wrong, right? So how do you deal with that? Can you go through the Road Warriors injury falling on your head? Can you tell that story?
Oh yeah, I can tell that. And Hawk and Animal, another big, good wrestling team. Rest in peace, both of them, good guys. But yeah, we were in Binghamton, New York, doing live TV, Monday Night Raw. Heard, I was going to do State of Life, so it was going to be the flip instead of us going down together, of course. And he had been in something that night, and I wasn't comfortable with the condition he was in, but I didn't stick him out. I just went, we talked office and said it.
Mark, you're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. I was taking the Doomsday Vice and because we talked and I said I wasn't comfortable doing it. And I didn't change nobody out. I just said I wasn't comfortable doing it. Phineas took up said he had taken it before and he said and they said they come back and said no, they want Henry to take it. So sure enough, I took it and broke my neck, had to pee out, got up, walked to the back, and they told me to pull my overalls down some and lay on the cold floor, and they took me to the hospital there in Binghamton, and I had cracked my C7. But so it is, you really got to be coming. You really got to have a trust there. Because like you said, when something goes wrong in the ring, it's usually pretty major.
Through your ability to tell that story, right? That it is important when people talk about pro wrestling and go, okay, for what it is and what it isn't, the impact that it has on the performers is legitimate. I mean, this is what you put your body through is nothing short of amazing. I'll ask you to tell the story of the infamous car wreck. Like your survival, you're a walking, talking miracle, Mark. Like there's no other way to say that, right?
Yeah, those, cracking your C7. If he said an inch or two another way, could have been totally different. I'd probably be in a wheelchair. And, I was supposed to take, I'm a man. I'm a dumbass sometimes. Always are when we're full of piss and vinegar at
Yes,
that
sir.
age and love what we're doing. In
Yes,
our
sir.
Sport.
Right.
So, I was supposed to take 14 weeks off and just lay around in ice and then go have another MRI. Well, in 6 weeks, I was ready to climb the walls, and I thought I was getting better. So I went back on the road and started wrestling at 7 weeks, and I wrestled for almost another 7 weeks. And Vince had a trainer with me on the road and work on me after. And I thought, well, that's not too bad. And then it just started compounding and getting worse. And I was doing 90-pound dumbbell presses with my left arm and couldn't do a 20-pound dumbbell with my right arm. So I knew something wasn't right. And so I come back we were living in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee at the time. And with, my mom and dad were helping me with my two boys because I had full custody of them. So, it just got worse, and I finally had to come off the road and spinal fusion done, C6, 7. Me and Stone Cold had same surgery, just months apart. But yeah, it's a big trust thing, and you feel sort of I don't know, let down when you can't trust somebody. But it's a big thing.
It's a real thing. Through that, let's talk about one of the better moments, right? I mean, you and I have talked about it, but I'd love for Harrison to hear about the pen match, the hog pen match, because he's never heard the story, and even as he's like, man, okay, now I got to go back and watch this. Who came up with the idea, and then what was your thought on it?
Well, it's other writers come up to when it comes,
You're breaking up again.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go.
All right. Yeah. Somebody in office that mentions the Vince, and he sort of runs with it, and he pitched the idea to me and Hunter what he wanted. He wanted live hogs, and he wanted a hog pen, and then he wanted it set about, I don't know, 60, 70 feet from the ring, the wrestling ring.
Wow.
And the objective was to get the other guy into the hog pen with all the
right
good elements that have been working there all day. The farmer brought him in at like, I don't know, 2 or 3 and put a bunch of dirt in there. And then by the time we ended up having a match, it was like 8-10 minutes of just dirt and shit. So, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that. But yeah, me and Hunter come up with the whole match. And we were new up there. We'd been up there a few months, and we'd been working each other, and Vince just sort of put it in our lap, and we'd run with it. And after the match, I just posted a picture a couple months ago about the rib after the match that night or before. I can't remember, but Owen Hart let the pigs out and got in Vince's office. So that was funny, night. And, we had the hog pen. We had one of those panel farm gates up. And Hunter threw me into it first. And I hit it so hard, I just bent the gate. So when I threw Hunter into the gate, it had a sharp edge.
Oh.
And he just that night. If you can watch that, you can see him, his back bleeding.
Yeah.
And I pressed him, and I didn't know it. And I pressed him over my head, walked around with him and dropped him that stuff. He was good at some
This is crazy. This is crazy. Mark,
it's always at WrestleMania, I was teasing him, about I was scarred him for life. And I love him. Instead, we got I think of that unveiling of Undertaker's statue. So yeah, me and Hunter got a lot of history, and it's all good. So,
but it's a great match. It's one of the most famous matches in history. Hey, we'll throw it to break. We'll come back. We'll close out. But I want to get to Mark's Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling and his favorite moment. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store. You're listening to One-on-One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Early break with Sip and Jake.
I'm sick of the chaos.
Yeah, I am too.
But some people love coaching searches. Like, they love it. This is fun for them. Some people would prefer that to having consistency and success, which is odd to me. But if you like chaos, that's your own thing, man.
I used to think that was about 3% of the fan base. Yeah, I'm going more toward 25% now.
Early break with Sip and Jake from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. The education assistance I received made it possible for me to be the first person in my family to go to school and graduate debt-free. That education helped get me to the first day at my dream job, a job that I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job, plus the other benefits possible from the Army National Guard, helped me become a first-time homeowner. Also, part of my role as a National Guard soldier means I know that I can be one of the first to respond and help my community if disaster ever strikes. I'm extremely proud that I get to serve my community, and that first step I took by joining the Army National Guard has made all the difference in my life. Talk to your local recruiter or visit nationalguard.com to find out what firsts are available to you in the Army National Guard.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
I'm Chris Jackamick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, "My job is people, everyone is my business." But unfortunately, in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackamick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza, the big one, all the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to One-on-One with DP. Brought to you by Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Final segment with Mark Canterbury. Of course, Mark would not understand this, but that most of our rejoins are from my shows are WWE entrance stuff. It's such a weird thing.
It's perfect.
Oh, it's such a weird thing. Mark Canterbury, Henry O. Godwin, George. Mark, I have to be out. Like I said, we missed some of the stuff because you were breaking up. Because I do want to go back. We've got about 10 minutes, and we can go through this stuff again. But yeah, most of my rejoins are WWE entrance songs. Like, I'm just that dude, and I won't apologize. I just won't. So I want to go back because we were talking about the pen fight, but we met like Harrison. Did he say he pushed him into a fence? Like the fence, it snapped, right? You could see Hunter's blood when in the second half of the fight.
Yeah. They didn't have like a bar gate. They had those old panel gates, and they had it hooked to the little hog pen that they had built. And there was, I think, 6 hogs in there. And of course, at the beginning of the match, we worked our way down there, and Hunter threw me into the gate. You know, I was a quarter then, so I just bent the gate, and it created a sharp edge. So later in the match, when I threw Hunter into it, it just sliced his back open.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it till we were already, I got dumped over. He flipped me over in there, and then Hillbilly pushed him. They got a little push match. He pushed Hunter back, and I snagged him and pulled him in there and pressed him and threw him in all that good stuff. And we were afraid he was going to get some kind of weird disease, some kind of new swine flu or something.
Well, you noticed it in the pay-per-view, and I was like, wait a minute, he's cut up pretty good. But great finish, one of the great matches of all time, and of course, in your that with winning the title. And I want you to go back once again, go back to the Garden and winning the World Championship.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is that our match that year was up for one of the top matches of the year, top 5 matches at the Slammy Awards that year.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yes, sir. Winning the tag team championships.
Oh my gosh. In Madison Square Garden. I mean, the limousine of buildings, the Super Bowl. It was such a great feeling. And I don't know if I told you this story or not, but I used to wear the John Deere hat all the time.
Yeah.
So after we won the match that night, I remember jumping up on Hillbilly's shoulders. I was so excited.
Athlete.
And that place was just, it was rocking. And it was just, I get goosebumps now just talking about it. But I threw my John Deere hat out in the crowd. I flung it.
Yeah.
Like I was up on the mound again. Some kid gets it. And about 6 months later, we're up there doing a signing in New York City. And this kid comes up, gives me this John Deere hat, said, "You threw this to me a few months ago when you all won the belt." So I knew it was my hat because I had marked it. And it had a stain on it. So I knew it was a legit hat. So I signed it for him. And that's the last I've heard of it. But just an awesome feeling. Warm, exciting, just almost out of your skin.
It just, like I'm getting goosebumps for you just listening to you tell the story. I have to ask to go through. So let's build a Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Right? And this is strictly yours, Mark, so you cannot be wrong. But who are the 4 wrestlers that you would put on the Mount Rushmore, the Henry O. Godwin, Mark Canterbury, Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
I've been trying to think. Maybe let's do two little Mount Rushmores, an old school and an old school.
Gotcha.
Let's start out with an
Sweet.
old school.
Sweet.
Let's do like a Dusty,
Okay.
a Flair,
Yes.
a Steamboat,
Yes.
and I'm going to have to go with Harley Race.
That's like you can't go wrong. Like you can't be mad at it. Now, is that old school or old school?
That's old school.
Okay. What's your
I would
old
go
school?
with Undertaker,
Mm-hmm.
Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm.
You got to throw Sting in there just for the longevity and as popular as he was.
Mm-hmm.
And Shawn Michaels.
So you're going to take HBK over The Rock. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Are you going to take Steamboat over Hogan?
Yes.
See, that's why I love talking to wrestlers, because there's a different thing. People fail. Like I went to college in Richmond, so Mid-Atlantic was the thing. And so I got to see Steamboat and Flair get after it.
I mean, one of the best rivals ever.
Right? Like that's pretty deep when you talk about, when Flair talks about it, said his favorite matches are all of his matches against Ricky Steamboat. And because Steamboat may be the true greatest face in wrestling history, a guy who never turned heel, Steamboat might be the greatest face of all. And it's him and Cena, right? They're kind of, yeah. Where do you land on that?
On Steamboat?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, never a heel.
Yeah.
He was a good-looking dude, still is. I was just on a signing in Sevierville, Tennessee with him probably 5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen each other in probably 2 or 3 years, but like I say, just a sweetheart of a guy.
There aren't enough of them in the business, that's for sure. Like to get right to get everybody.
Changed. The business has changed. The boys have changed. It's different.
What are your thoughts on that? Because somebody asked me that. Actually, a buddy has a show in Atlanta, and he wanted me on to talk wrestling. And as it came up, and I just said, look, I'm old school in the sense that, listen, I want to at least feel like the dudes in the ring could beat my butt. Right? Like, and now that's not the case. There's so much gymnastics. There's so much over jumping, over leaping, over talking that I don't like. These are dudes who don't impress me. Like, I need to feel like, in some sense, that look, if I saw this dude at the bar, I should watch my step.
Yeah. And we were just talking about that this past weekend at Hazard Fest in Greenville, Tennessee, that, back in my day, just the BSK group, you had me, my partner, both over 300, Undertaker over 300, Godfather, Savio was about 280, 290.
Yeah.
Yoko was 6+.
Right.
Rikishi was probably 350, 370 at the time. So, and you had Vader, Big Van Vader, and Bam Bam Bigelow. There were some big dudes.
Tugboat. Yeah, they were.
Taker, it was a big guy sport back then, and everybody was athletic. You had Vader doing somersaults,
right?
Bam Bam doing somersaults off the top rope, and Taker walking the rope doing his thing. So there was a lot of athleticism and big guys back then, but it's changed. And I had heard Undertaker did a interview or something, and said that the guys today aren't as tough as they were back then. In a sense, I could see where he's coming from. It's a little bit different now to me.
Yeah, it just seems different. But I'm glad that they're getting, there's multiple, spots for folks to work, and folks are being put in play. And I think my hope is that consistently, they bring back the Mark Canterburys of the world to be heard, to be seen, to be known. I'm glad the convention circuit is out there. The signing circuit is going to be there. Where are you going to next? Where are you going to sign next?
I was just getting ready to say where we're going to be. That's cool. Great minds think alike.
Yes, sir.
That's why I love you, man. Let's see. October. We were supposed to be October 22nd, 23rd. We were supposed to be in New York, but it got moved up to November 11th. We're doing a big signing.
Mark, I'm going to be in New York for that.
Are you?
Look, UFC is going to be in New York that weekend at Madison Square Garden, and I literally just talked about that.
Oh man, we may have to hook up there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're going to be up there 2 days.
That's gonna happen.
I think he's wanting to do some in New York City and then Albany, but it's for Captain's Corner.
Okay.
Wrestling. That's who the promotion is, and it's November, I think 10th, 11th, or 11th.
I'm getting in on the 9th. I'm covering UFC that weekend. It's at Adesanya Pereira, and it's at Madison Square Garden. I know I'm getting in November 11th. So you and I are going to have beverages, sir.
And we will have some dinner or some lunch.
Yes, sir. Come on.
Yeah.
I didn't even that work. That's amazing. Where else are you going to be?
That would be awesome.
Let's do that, man. So where else are you going to be?
And then October 28th and 29th, we're in Fort Wayne.
Okay.
There's a big show there. It's a signing. It's called Heroes and Legends.
Nice. Okay.
It's for Jason Maples. Good guy. It should be a lot of fun.
Mark, this is the first time we're going to work this out where you need your own show where you can just sit and talk wrestling stories and invite people in. We can actually video stream, so your face shows up on the feed, and we can just zoom in like we do, and you can invite other folks to come in and talk. But you and I will talk about that later, probably tomorrow.
Cool.
Bro. Mark, man, listen, look, I love you to pieces. Now I know that we're going to see each other in New York. That adds to this thing. So many stories left to be told. Thank you for staying up. Man, come on, Mark. This is amazing.
DP.
Yes, sir.
DP, New York may never be the same after that.
You have never lied, kind sir. You have never lied. Listen, hug the wife. I will talk to you tomorrow, and we'll work things out so we can meet up.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. I love you, man. You have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, there he is, Mark Canterbury. Henry O. Godwin. There's a party in New York, and it's about to happen. I will see you guys tomorrow, 4:00 from the Mercado. That's where we're going to be. We'll do the thing, and then Friday we're at Barry's. Harrison, long day, good work. Thank you, kind sir.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear because I'm grilling up dinner.